continuation and exercise of the aims, objectives, and mission of WAF in fostering in the sphere of the human habitat, being the human settlements. Chief among the aims and objectives of WAF is to promote socially and environmentally sustainable human settlements and shelter through policy advocacy and mobilization of support for adequate attention and action towards an adequate and secure human habitat. It is in response to the biting issues and problems of the prevalence of the inadequate and inappropriate attention and endemic issues of the human settlements and the habitat that the United Nations created dedicated programs to propagate and engage world governments and leaders in ensuring the enhancement of capacities on issues bordering on the habitat and human settlements. Number 11 of the United Nations Sustainable Goals is particularly dedicated to the issue of sustainable cities and communities. It is my belief that this conference will touch on some germane issues which will for sure be beneficial to policymakers and stakeholders to enhance actions that will promote a healthy and sustainable habitat. We also, as part of our ways and means, as a non-governmental and non-profit organization, use such occasion as today to appeal to friends and partners for support and assistance to assist us in our goals attainment efforts. May I also use this medium to appeal most passionately to world leaders, government and business, philanthropists, charity and service organizations to come to the aid and support of the governments and peoples of Mozambique, Malawi, Zimbabwe, whose areas and peoples suffered heavy losses in deaths and shelters from the catastrophic tropical cyclone Idai in March of this year. It is reported that scores of people died, with properties worth more than $1 billion destroyed. Please, may we observe a minute's silence in honor of the souls consumed by this catastrophe. Please, 1 minute silence. Let us rise. Errors and oversights of governance, natural occurrences and wars are also contending and taking tolls on mankind. Therefore, humans, wherever we are and whatever position to occupy, must build a new consciousness on the issues of the habitat. To those of you whom we have selected to honor today, you have been enlisted by so doing as our partners in progress. NGOs are Oliver Twists. That's what we are. Please do not be weary of supporting us in our drive for a sustainable habitat for humanity. To our special guest of honor, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation of Nigeria, Barrister Boss Mustafa, we cannot thank you enough for always coming whenever we call upon you. Our Royal Father of the Day, His Royal Highness Alhaji Muhammad Haliru Dantoro, the Emir of the Great Borgu Kingdom. We cannot also thank you enough. You cut short your trip to honor this event. May your reign belong, Your Highness. The Inspector General of Police of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Muhammad Abubakar Adamu MNI, we thank you for honoring our invitation. Your Excellencies, heads of missions, our special and very distinguished guests, we thank you most immensely for honoring this invitation. Again, to our eminent honorees, I congratulate you and advise that you be good ambassadors of WAF. Please enjoy your evening. Thank you and welcome.
Including sexual harassment, violence, and a lot of other type of issues. But if we leave women behind and not include them in the policy-making processes, more specifically at the local government level, it's very difficult for these women to feel safe in their own cities and to feel a sense of belonging. The same for young people. You know that there are a lot of young people who do not find space where to work, where to play, where to find alternatives, especially when they're doing their free time. And according to certain urban policies where they have advanced regional policies, and more specifically including all these stakeholders in the decision-making processes, it's highly important that these people voice their opinion about the vision of the cities and the communes that they want to see today and want to see in the future. Now, with migration, with urbanization, we have a density, yet they create a lot of issues, and the city becomes a space for conflict, not a haven for diversity and coexistence. And we have seen a lot of conflicts across Africa in many cities between people from diverse cultures. So the challenge here is how to include all these people, including marginalized groups, in the policy-making process in order for them to voice their opinion about how they envision, you know, the building of a city. You know, as citizens, we see greater projects, greater cities built, greater, you know, malls, a greater infrastructure. This is really beautiful, and it, you know, it might create a lot of job opportunities and also create more opportunities for investment, etc. Yet, but normal citizens do not absolutely relate these big projects to his or her daily life. So how can governments improve their communication with citizens and include them in the process in order not to create issues of security? So basically, in Morocco, where I come from, you know, we have created certain mechanism, a participatory democracy mechanism, where we're allowing young people and women to voice their opinion at the local level within municipalities and communes and regions. Why this is really important? Because those mechanisms allow these citizens to move from a culture of protesting to a culture of proposing alternatives. And I can give you two examples. I think here, maybe in Nigeria, you have youth councils, or you have consultative bodies for parity, gender, and equal opportunity. In Morocco, we have within each commune, municipality, and region a committee that examines, you know, the inclusion of women and young people, and also people with disabilities and disenfranchised and marginalized groups within the process of policy making. So basically, they have the right to state their opinion, they have the right to consult experts, and they have the right to have a say in the policy making. And the government, by law, they have to do public consultation. Each commune, when they're going to do their development plan for the 3 years or for the 6 years, they have to do big consultation with all citizens, including how they envision development within the city, how they envision their environment, how we ensure a harmony between humans and nature. Because sometimes we think that environment is not important, whereas environment today is one of the key international human rights. And people today are advocating for the right to environment, for decent park, for proper, you know, housing, for a lot of things that today it's quite important for ensuring a well-being and a living. So I think if governments are listening to young people, are listening to women, are providing institutionalized mechanism for participation, they will manage, you know, to have the voice, and they will manage to have a sense of belonging to their communities, and this will impact their positive participation at local affairs. So I want to conclude by saying that today it's quite important to ensure coexistence. We are from different communities, we are from different religions, we are from different cultures. The city today is not reserved to a certain, ethnic group or a nationality or a gender. We have to live in harmony, so we have to ensure that we have mechanisms that will allow me, you, and the other to voice their opinion and to propose their own local solutions for future coexistence. Thank you so much.
Shelter and other resources are made available for people and other living organisms. The key being sustainable there is that there is no resource depletion or waste being produced. Basically, for a habitat to be sustainable, therefore, especially for future generations, it won't need external infusion of resources. However, there is a huge debate about whether this is actually possible or not. But that debate, you will agree with me, has been laid to rest by the vast achievements of sustainable habitats, both far and wide. Let me give you a little preamble and tell you about Nigeria. As a country, we have gone through the trauma of having different planning laws since the inception of our country as an entity. The Nigerian Urban and Regional Planning Law of 1992 is one of such laws that gave necessity to planning at all levels of government, but the response of all tiers of government has shown less acceptability, hence the obvious malfunction of the law. Nigeria is undoubtedly one of the fastest growing populations with a growth rate of about 2.8% year in, year out. It's on a very sad note that this growth is accompanied by a high rate of uncontrolled and unplanned development. One of the most pressing issues in Nigeria today is rapid urbanization and, of course, the attendant impacts. The environmental sustainability of cities in less developed countries generally has been a key concern, and the concept of green cities is being promoted as a response. Urban planners have been at the forefront in implementing the green city agenda globally, particularly in developed countries. However, in Nigeria, it remains essentially a concept, just a concept that is discussed in seminars and gatherings like this. But definite action is lacking. There has been no policy response either at national or state levels to implement the Green City agenda, even as at March 2017. We are thus faced with several peculiar challenges, which makes a green agenda appear unattainable, such as the inadequacies of our energy, transportation system, waste management systems, and several others, just to mention a few. So, the question that begs now is, what do we do? I often tell people that it is not rocket science, and there is no point reinventing the wheel. Why don't we just look at countries that have tried something successfully and then copy from them, and copy shamelessly? There's no shame in copying if it's a good system. So I shall be looking at two countries, Sweden and Switzerland, how they've been able to do that, and then profile 5 experiential solutions. I'll start with Switzerland. Switzerland currently is the greenest country in the world. According to the latest data analysis from the 2018 Environmental Performance Index, this index actually evaluates and ranks 180 countries on 24 different performance indicators across 10 categories covering environmental health and ecosystem vitality. The aim is to gauge at a national scale how close countries are to meeting the environmental policy goals outlined in the United Nations 2015 Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. It's important to mention that Nigeria is at the 100th position out of 180 countries with an EPI of 54.76%. The sadder part is that there is no African country that is in the first 50. In fact, you only have 4 African countries between the 60 and 90 point mark, and that is Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Egypt. All the others are either out of scale. The second country here is Sweden. Sweden is ranked as the most sustainable country in the world, according to the country sustainability ranking study. This Scandinavian nation emerged ahead of 59 other countries, evaluated on a broad range of environmental, social, and governance components. Retaining the lead position it secured even the year before. The sustainability ranking is based on crucial risk and return drivers important for investors and consists of 17 different indicators that provide insights into the investment risk and opportunities associated with each country. Thus, to have a sustainable country, there are several parameters, but I'll just list 5 of those that I think we need to look at as a nation. The first is policy statements. As a nation, I believe that we must be deliberate about our intention to be less dependent on oil and become one of the world's first fossil fuel-free nations. As part of this commitment, we need to come up with a roadmap. I tagged it Roadmap 2050. With this roadmap, we will look at our conversion rates as at 2010, and then ensure that we're able to reduce this by at least 50% in another 11 years, that's by 2030, such that by the year 2040, we will have reduced our greenhouse gas emission to near zero, because all the fleet of vehicles on our roads will probably not be on any hydrocarbon fuel. Of course, the government will have to invest trillions of dollars, trillions of naira, and of course, perhaps billions of nairas to ensure that this project is implemented. The budget, there has to be ways to generate the money. So what I've suggested towards generating the resources will be to finance part of this by encouraging hydro-powered vehicles, which is possible, and of course come up with carbon taxes, heavy carbon taxes on petrol and diesel, as well as through the sale of coal mines and other plants that we may not be using. This will significantly cut down our dependency on fossil fuels. Instituting a carbon tax, you will agree with me, is also a cost-effective means of lessening the carbon dioxide emission within our country. Additionally, there is a funding available called the Global Environmental Facilities. And as it stands today, Tanzania is the only country in Africa that has taken advantage of such funds. Let's look at another example in energy, for instance. Nigerians reportedly burn an average of 40 million liters of petrol and diesel every day for the private generation of electricity. The mandate of the National Energy Commission includes the guarantee of adequate, sustainable, and optimal supply at appropriate cost and in environmentally responsible manner. The National Energy Commission thus needs to be empowered to ensure that this mandate is achieved. One way will be to build and maintain modular solar power generating plants in every state. This could be alternated with the usual way of generating power, which is still yet to be sufficient. A very good example close by is Rwanda, who entered into partnership to provide alternative clean power. Today, Rwanda's energy balance shows about 85% of its overall primary energy consumption is based not on hydrocarbon but on biomass. The other 11% is from petroleum products, and then there is a mere 4% from hydroelectric sources. The third example will be human-heated buildings. Sustainability can be affected by risks such as intra and interstate conflicts, water crisis, disasters caused by external weather, unemployment, terrorist attacks, and even governance failures. These factors can negatively impact a country's economy, so that the economical, the environmental, social, and governance issues need to be heavily considered. Just like the two countries that I used as examples earlier on, Switzerland and Sweden, who are already showing the world that sustainability is actually achievable by every nation. I believe that to secure a sustainable habitat, we need leadership that is visionary, leadership that is people-oriented, leadership that is strategic and innovative, leadership that can deploy and deploy strategies that will delay gratification and build systems rather than create superficial solutions. In essence, sustainable habitat requires leadership that is effective. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, I submit, therefore, that it is time to change the landscape color of Nigeria. It is indeed time to go green. I thank you for this.
Coastal zone management activities, shoreline protection, and channelization of rivers and floods are taken care of. I'd want to let you all know that since this administration came on board, since 2015 to date, well over 160 projects, close to over 70 billion naira have been spent. Today, we have commissioned close to 90 projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. Every part of this country has been affected, especially the southeast. A lot of erosion activities are going on there. And the Ecological Fund, under which office I serve, and that fund office is directly under the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. So you can see that the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is key to ensuring that our habitat is safe for all of us. And we provide also a lot of services to research institutions, universities, researches on the environment, especially issues to do with drought and desertification, flooding, and the likes. There are other agencies as well. We have the National Agency for the Great Green Wall, which is also an agency created by government to help check the encroachment of the desert from the northern fringes of Nigeria. We're looking at the countries around Niger, Mali, Chad, Cameroon, and a lot of droughts coming in from there. The African Union decided to pool resources together to build a wall of trees. And all African countries have been asked to do their own part of that function. For Nigeria, there is the National Agency for the Great Green Wall that is working towards ensuring that the northern states are part of this development to ensure that we build a lot of trees to keep our environment more habitable. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the present administration has, through these efforts, tried to ensure that our habitat, the place we call home, is preserved for both our generation and generations yet unborn. I thank you all for your attention.
As long as we continue to have programs like this, conferences like this, this will continue to put more pressure on the government, even if they have no such plan. The current administration has been doing what it can, but we want to encourage His Excellency the President to continue to ensure that he does more, because Nigerians cannot thrive, the economy cannot thrive in an unsecured environment. We've seen what has happened in countries like Libya. We've seen what has happened in so many other African countries. So what I believe that the current administration is working towards ensuring the sustainable habitat. I am Ambassador Hilary Emo. I'm the country director of the World Habitat Ambassadors Foundation. We've seen the theme of today's leadership program. The theme is effective leadership. Its role in ensuring and securing a sustainable habitat 2.0. What we're saying is that our leaders need to be more involved in issues that has to do with securing our habitats. Looking at what is happening all over the world, not just in Nigeria, you see a lot of internally displaced persons.